I'm going to be going over question 4 and 5 of the practice test. So, question 4. Consider the function, all that, where these are all numbers greater than or equal to 0. And find the range of the function. Well, if we kind of just look at this graph, right? Even though it's the next question. The highest and lowest it can go, that's just the amplitude. So from here to here, that is only the amplitude. And the amplitude is this A. So we know that this answer is gonna involve the A. And we can either add or subtract A. It's gonna be plus or minus A. Now the second part, where this actually is located. If you remember back to the clock, whatever that was, it was way above the ground. It's gonna be way up here. And that would be, or the variable that affects that is the plus D. The plus D makes it go up or down. And if we look back at the question, greater than or equal to 0, we know that D can only be up. So if A, for example, is 2, we have the sine, or 2 sine of x plus 5. Well, the highest and lowest sign can either be 0, it can either be -1 or +1. So if we draw our circle, it can only be up here or down here. And that's just +1, -1, which will make this +2 or -2, or plus or minus 2. And then bringing our 5, so we'll have 5 either +2 or 5 -2. Now if we go over to the answers, well, what is 5 really? 5 is really the midline. So that means 5, or D minus A, -2, and then comma D plus A, or +2. So that's kind of an example to explain what this question is really asking. Number 5, the equation for the graph below is given, blah, blah, blah. Find the value of G and H. So, back to this. Well, we know that this A is the amplitude, so that means this G is also going to be amplitude. So, G equals amplitude. That's pretty bad. Anyways, amplitude. And then the H, that's the period. Or that's the vertical stretch, sorry, not the period. So, on a standard circle, right? We know that one full rotation is 2 pi. Or it would take 2 pi. When we have a vertical stretch, that alters a 2 pi. So if we look at cosine of x, well, cosine of x and sine of x, for that matter, is really cosine of 1x. And now back to our 2 pi. This in front, this number in front, is really going to get divided by the 2 pi. Or is going to be dividing into the 2 pi. So it'll be 2 pi divided by 1, which is equal to 2 pi. And that would be our period. This would be the vertical stretch. Or sorry, horizontal, my fault. Horizontal stretch. This would be the period. So they are related, but they aren't the same thing. Not the same thing. So if you wanted to find the period, for example, we would just set 2 pi over the horizontal stretch, or whatever this number is in front of the x. For example, we'll say it's 2. So cosine of 2x. Well, we would put 2 here, and then that makes our new period pi. And we could do this backwards as well. So and that's where you get the 2 pi over b equals whatever your period is. And that's what we're going to be using for this equation. So 2 pi over b is equal to this period. And now to find that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 0, 0, 0, so it's easy. So 0, 0 goes up, down, and then back up. And the period would end right here. Now, from 0 to pi over 3, well, that's just pi over 3. So we have 2 pi over b is equal to pi over 3. Now we just solve for b. So I'm going to multiply by b, multiply by b. We're going to move all that stuff over here. So now we have 2 pi is equal to pi over 3 times b. Well, to get rid of this pi over 3, we're going to times it by the opposite, or the reciprocal, so I'm going to just put that over here. 3 over pi, and then we'll do that to this. 3 over pi. And then this 3 over pi times 2 pi, we're going to combine that into 6 pi over pi. And then that would be equal to b. Simplifying, these cancel. B equals 6. So in this case, I chose b. Normally it wouldn't, oh, it's worse. Normally it wouldn't be b, it would be whatever this is. But in this case, it would be h. So really, h is equal to 6. And now we're going to look over the answers. So which one of these says h is equal to 6? This one. Now, if there was more than one of these, right, then we would be solving for g. And to solve for g, it's basically just counting from the midline up to the highest point or to the lowest point. And then that would be 0 to 0.5, which is just 0.5. And that's why the answer is D.